Salam sejahtera, anda sedang menyaksikan Niaga AWANI bersama saya Rozman dan kita akan mulakan dengan laporan pertama di mana Perdana Menteri Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim bertemu dengan beberapa pelabur terkemuka di Putrajaya pada Selasa bagi meneroka peluang pelaburan strategik merentas sektor ekonomi utama. Menerusi hantaran di laman Facebook, beliau berkata ia adalah sebagai ikhtiar untuk merancangkan pertumbuhan ekonomi dan mendukung visi yang terkandung dalam ekonomi madani.
Anwar yang juga Menteri Kewangan berkata perjumpaan itu disertai beberapa pelabur yang berpengaruh di peringkat antarabangsa dan terkenal dengan sumbangan mereka kepada pembangunan ekonomi serta syarikat yang berjaya. Antaranya pengasas bersama laman Facebook Eduardo Severin, Ketua Pegawai Eksekutif bersama B Capital Raj Ganguly, pengasas WM Partners Alejandro Westin serta pengasas European Ventures Fund Peter Kadas. Anwar berkata kehadiran mereka bukan sahaja mempamerkan keyakinan terhadap kerajaan perpaduan dan prospek ekonomi negara, malah membuktikan Malaysia mempunyai daya tarikan sebagai destinasi pelaburan antarabangsa. Menurutnya, perbincangan turut menyentuh soal peluang bagi meneroka pelaburan dalam sektor teknologi dan inovasi, tenaga boleh diperbaharui, pembangunan infrastruktur, pelancongan serta hospitaliti dan pembuatan antara lain. Tambah Perdana Menteri membuka ruang untuk para pelabur mengenal pasti peluang pelaburan yang sejajar dengan matlamat strategik akan memberi manfaat ekonomi yang besar untuk Malaysia dan rakyatnya.
Baik, bercakap mengenai Majlis Madani, kita tahu iaitu Persekutuan Pekilang Malaysia FFM telah menggesa kerajaan untuk menubuhkan Majlis Madani dan Jawatan Kuasa Pandu bersama antara kementerian dan juga sektor swasta untuk meningkatkan, kita boleh cakap, kerjasama yang lebih kukuh dan tanggungjawab secara bersama dalam kalangan sektor swasta. Dan kalau kita lihat apakah tanggungjawab yang boleh dilakukan secara bersama dan dalam kalangan sektor swasta dan juga awam dan pihak yang berkepentingan, saya tak akan buang masa, saya akan mempersilakan tetamu kita yang sudah bersedia dalam talian adalah penganalisis dasar politik ekonomi dan pengajian antarabangsa UUM Dr. Muhammad Syukri Syuib. Saya nak ucapkan terima kasih Dr. kerana sudi meluangkan masa bersama kami. Apa khabar?
Ya, baik. Alhamdulillah. Terima kasih Nina dan Astro.
Doktor, it's no secret sebenarnya kita dah banyak majlis yang ditubuhkan sebelum ini. Mungkin Doktor boleh kongsikan pertama sekali apakah signifikan penubuhan Majlis Madani baru-baru ini?
Ya, terima kasih Nina. Kalau kita lihat dalam konteks ini, mungkin kalau kita lihat aspirasi untuk mewujudkan struktur ekonomi bersifat madani yang digagaskan oleh kepimpinan negara melalui Perdana Menteri, itu menunjukkan bahawa telah ada sebenarnya dasar-dasar yang cuba diserapkan elemen madani. Kalau kita lihat, selain daripada usaha untuk menubuhkan Majlis Madani yang bersifat struktur ekonomi ini, lebih baik juga kita memperkasakan dan kita melihat institusi majlis-majlis yang telah sedia ada dan dipengerusikan oleh Yang Amat Berhormat Perdana Menteri dan dianggotai oleh anggota kabinet juga, beberapa anggota kabinet. Contohnya Majlis Tindakan Ekonomi Negara. Majlis Tindakan Ekonomi Negara juga menekankan, kalau kita lihat mesyuarat yang terkini yang dilakukan itu juga menekankan bahawa struktural ekonomi itu perlu didasari oleh elemen madani yang diketengahkan oleh pihak kerajaan yang ada pada hari ini. Jadi kalau kita lihat di situ, selain daripada MPN yang menjadi induk untuk pembuatan dasar, apatah lagi dipengerusikan oleh Perdana Menteri sendiri dan beberapa menteri kanan dalam aspek ekonomi itu, kita ada juga unit kerjasama awam-swasta UKAS yang ditubuh tahun 2009. Kita ada juga UPEN, kita ada juga ICU beberapa struktur yang telah ada di Jabatan Perdana Menteri dan telah ada sendiri di dalam Kementerian Ekonomi itu sendiri perlu digembeling, perlu disetarakan. Kalau boleh dalam konteks ini, cadangan yang dibawa oleh Persatuan Pekilang ini ada kewajaran sebab mereka ini kalau kita lihat dalam bulan Jun saja sale untuk sektor manufacturing ini 147 bilion. Ya, kalau kita lihat daripada keseluruhan GDP itu 380.9 bilion itu 147 bilion itu secara bulanan disumbangkan oleh sektor perkilangan saja. Jadi dalam konteks ini adalah munasabah untuk mempertimbangkan hasrat yang dibawa oleh persatuan-persatuan ini. Tetapi pada masa yang sama juga kita kena melihat struktur yang telah sedia ada supaya dia tidak mengelirukan lagi. Jadi mungkin dalam konteks itu penambahbaikan contoh M10 ditubuhkan satu sekretariat pelaksanaan dasar madani itu yang tertera di dalam Majlis Tindakan Ekonomi Negara. Jadi Majlis Tindakan Ekonomi Negara yang tubuhkan tahun 98 itu, UKAS tahun 2009 dan sebagainya, UPN, ICU yang sedia ada itu mekanisme yang telah baik, yang telah mempunyai punca kuasa, arahan kabinet sebagai contoh, arahan kabinet, dasar persyarikatan, dasar penswastaan, semuanya akan diaplikasikan di situ. Maka saya fikir bahawa perlu ada keselarasan yang tidak mengelirukan dalam pelaksanaan suatu dasar dan polisi supaya dasar dan polisi itu dapat diserapkan dan dilaksanakan oleh pihak pentadbir awam. Pihak pentadbir awam ni berbagai-bagai sektor yang terlibat dalam nak menjayakan pertumbuhan ekonomi ini, nak menjayakan perolehan pendapatan, bukan saja dari aspek percukaian, dari aspek kastamnya dan sebagainya itu. Tetapi juga untuk mendasari supaya macam contohnya sektor wholesale dan retail ni 138.5 bilion ni nak dijaga supaya tidak berlaku kecelaruan dari segi dasar dan juga pelaksanaan. Jadi saya fikir dalam konteks penubuhan apa sahaja majlis itu, aspek keselarasan dan juga kestabilan dari segi pelaksanaan sesuatu dasar dan pengarahan itu perlu jelas dan tepat.
Bercakap mengenai seperti yang Dr. kongsikan bahawa apabila kita ingin bercakap langkah untuk menubuhkan majlis yang baru, kita harus teliti juga majlis yang sedia ada ni untuk kita teliti apakah aspek yang perlu diberi tumpuan. Tetapi kita bercakap mengenai Majlis Madani ini bertujuan untuk memperkukuhkan lagi iaitu kerjasama antara swasta dan juga awam. Tapi mungkin Doktor boleh kongsikan bagaimana untuk kita bercakap untuk menyelaraskan Majlis Madani ini memang mengutamakan kerjasama sektor dan awam. Apa yang perlu kita ada untuk menjayakan dasar ekonomi madani ini agar kita boleh cakap tidak boleh meletakkan harapan hanya semata-mata kepada kerajaan, dan mungkin Doktor boleh kongsikan apa bentuk mekanisme yang boleh diwujudkan dalam memperkukuhkan kerjasama ini?
Ya, ini penting sebenarnya untuk kita faham bahawa sebenarnya kerjasama dengan sektor awam dan juga swasta ini telah lama didasari. Telah kerajaan kita lihat pro kepada pihak swasta. Kalau kita lihat di segmen pemodal, kapitalis dan juga elemen pragmatik dalam dasar kita, perimbangan antara kapitalisme, pemodal itu dan juga sosialisme dari aspek kita agihan kebajikan dan sebagainya sentiasa diutamakan. Kalau kita lihat kerajaan kita sejak daripada merdeka sehingga hari ini adalah pro kepada pelabur. Pelabur dari segi FDI, pelabur asing, dan juga yang seterusnya ialah pelabur dalam negara, DDI. Ini diberikan tumpuan. Contoh DDI, kalau kita lihat kerjasama swasta ini, bukan swasta yang 100%, tetapi ada juga swasta, contohnya GLIC, Government Link Investment Company, dan kita ada GLC. Dalam konteks GLIC ini, kita ada banyak elemen seperti institusi seperti KWSP sebagai contoh, Pemodalan Nasional Berhad PNB, Lembaga Tabung Angkatan Tentera, Lembaga Tabung Haji, kita ada amanah pencen dan sebagainya. Jadi institusi GLIC ini juga memainkan peranan di dalam pertumbuhan ekonomi dan juga pihak swasta. Contohnya pihak swasta kita lihat pelabur yang bersifat kapitalis ataupun pemodal persendirian ini. Ini semua terpelihara. Kalau kita lihat dalam konteks itu, dasar yang pro kepada pelabur ini juga perlu diberikan perhatian khusus, kerana kalau kita lihat dalam sektor ini, pelabur penting kerana dia akan membuka peluang untuk pembukaan industri dan memberikan ruang pekerjaan. Apabila ruang pekerjaan itu bertambah banyak, apa yang berlaku ialah sektor percukaian dan juga sektor peruncitan ataupun purchasing power parity ini, PPP ataupun kuasa beli rakyat dari aspek bukan saja kita kutip cukai secara langsung, tetapi aspek pemerkasaan pendapatan rakyat untuk memberikan mereka kuasa beli yang berterusan ya, supaya ekonomi tidak stagnan ataupun tidak statik. Ini penting juga dalam negara kita, sebab itu kerjasama awam dan swasta ni antara kerajaan dan juga sektor swasta, pemodal, pekilang, dari aspek pelabur, ya, sama ada jangka pendek atau jangka panjang, perlu diberi perhatian khusus. Jadi dalam konteks itu juga kita melihat bahawa kita perlu, selain daripada itu, perlindungan ke atas industri yang bersifat pekerjaan langsung kepada rakyat. Jadi ini kita penciptaan, kalau sekarang ini kita tertumpu pada aspek digitalisasi dan sebagainya, ya. Tetapi aspek perburuhan ini perlu juga diberikan penekanan yang khusus dalam apa saja aspirasi, termasuk aspirasi madani, supaya kemahiran rakyat dapat juga dipertingkatkan dan berada dalam sektor pekerjaan itu secara langsung.
Baik. Seperti yang doktor katakan, banyak aspek yang perlu kita teliti dan kita berharap atas perkongsian doktor berkongsi bagaimanakah untuk kita menilai keupayaan Majlis Madani dalam memperkukuhkan kerjasama antara swasta dan juga awam agar tiada siapa yang terpinggir. Sekali lagi saya ucapkan terima kasih kepada penganalisis dasar politik ekonomi dan pengajian antarabangsa UUM Dr. Muhammad Syukri Syuib, dan semua perkongsian ini akan kami rangkumkan dalam astroawani.com dan semua platform digital Astro Awani. Jangan ke mana-mana, kami akan berhenti rehat seketika, kembali selepas ini.
Wow, banyaknya notification. Ada banyak soalan ni. I pilih lagi satu. Soalan ni dari Suna Naji. Dia tanya, macam mana nak dapat wifi kencang? Senang je. Kalau berminat, WhatsApp hi ke 0395433838. Lepas tu, pilih nombor 2. Nanti tim kencang jawab. Jangan lupa bagi tahu bajet dengan keperluan isi rumah dulu. Ada berapa pengguna, berapa peranti, itu penting kena tahu tu. Tapi jangan risau, router Wi-Fi 6 ni confirm kencang walaupun 10 orang guna serentak. Power kan? Ada soalan lain? Jangan malu-malu. Layari astro.com.my/fiber untuk info lanjut tentang tag dan promosi terkini.
Asking the tough questions is what we do every day here on Astro Awani. Catch me every weeknights at 10:30 p.m. across all Awani platforms.
Assalamualaikum, Inspektor.
Ingat misi kita. Yang lepas tahu macam mana sih? Kau keluar masuk siap-siap. Bukannya start mati blue kat sana.
Tapi tak semua arahan tu betul, Tuan.
Tahu dok, dia akan bunuh Hanim, tahu dok. Kai, kali ni tak ada agak-agak dah.
Polis Ibo 3. Sewa dan stream on demand atau sila ke saluran 480.
Bertemu kembali dalam Niaga Awani, dan kali ini kita akan teruskan berbincang kita mengenai perusahaan kecil sederhana PKS. Bagaimanakah keadaan mereka ketika ini? Apakah realiti mereka? Dan antara fokus dalam ekonomi madani adalah untuk menjadikan Malaysia sebagai jaguh serantas PMKS. Setelah itu kita akan bawakan tetamu kita yang berada dalam studio adalah Hudhaifah Ahmad, Pengarah Eksekutif My Angkasa Digital Services. Saya nak ucapkan terima kasih Hudhaifah kerana sudi datang ke studio pada kali ini. Jam tak tadi?
Kurang sikit.
Kurang sikit. Okey. Mungkin sebabkan kita boleh cakap ada orang still cuti daripada public holiday hari itu.
Ada orang extend lagi kan.
Okey. Kita tahu dalam usaha ekonomi madani ini seperti yang diperjuangkan oleh Perdana Menteri dan juga Kerajaan Perpaduan adalah untuk mengangkat PMKS ni, darjat dan martabat PMKS ni, dan jadikan Malaysia sebagai jaguh PMKS serantau. So, sebelum kita nak cakap seiring dengan usaha untuk bawa PMKS ke peringkat global, mungkin Hudhaifah boleh kongsikan sekarang ini macam manakah realiti ataupun keadaan PKS dekat Malaysia ni?
Okey, insya-Allah. So, kalau ikutkan berdasarkan statistik saya kan, Malaysia mempunyai sebanyak 1.2 juta registered SMEs, yang mana ia represent sebanyak 97% daripada keseluruhan perniagaan di Malaysia. Kalau kita lihat daripada jumlah total employment workforce, right, boleh dikatakan hampir setengah ataupun 48% total employment workforce datangnya daripada SME. Right? So dari segi sumbangan kepada KDKNK pula adalah sebanyak 39% daripada GDP. So kalau kita tengok dari segi peranan yang SME memainkan dalam pembangunan negara di semua sektor, daripada manufacturing, services, agriculture, sumbangan SME memang sangat penting, tidak boleh dinafikan.
Tapi kita boleh cakap mereka ni adalah antara paling terkesan tapi antara penyumbang tertinggi juga kepada hasil negara. Betul. Mungkin Hudhaifah boleh kongsikan antara 3 perkara penting ataupun 3 perkara kritikal yang kita boleh cakap dalam usaha untuk memperkasakan PMKS tempatan terutamanya.
So kalau kita ikutkan trending sekarang lah kan, semua pergi ke arah digital, right? Kita pun ada AI, kita pun ada macam-macam chat GPTs and metaverse and all that, right? So untuk memperkasakan SME tempatan, kita harus ada 3 elemen penting, right? Kita harus nombor 1, kita harus fokus kepada education dan digital adoption, right? So terutama sekali dalam bidang digital literacy dan juga business management, right? So SME wajib memiliki skill set ini sekiranya mahu compete ke tahap yang lebih tinggi, right? So sebagai contoh, banyak SME yang ada sekarang ni tidak ada skill set dalam accounting, right? So bila tak ada skill set dalam accounting, kalau kita cakap pasal monthly bookkeeping, cash flow report, balance sheet, P&L semua tiada, right? So apa yang biasa dilakukan, pagi beli inventory RM100, by end of the day dapat RM200, RM300, untung RM200, right? So and that's the cycle, right? So and some of them juga memang dia masih belum menerima digital payment acceptance dan juga menggunakan point of sale system, right? So ni satu area yang kita kena fokuskanlah supaya education digital adoption tu dapat diserasikan terus dengan kepada SME. Perkara nombor 2 adalah akses kepada financing, right? Boleh katakan this is by far the biggest issues yang currently being faced daripada semua SME yang ada. We need to make it easier for SMEs to access loans dan juga capital, especially from the banks, right? So complex documentation requirements memang sulit untuk dia sediakan. Tak ada documentation to begin with because of earlier reasons, tak simpan bookkeeping and all that, right? And these are all the reasons why dalam keadaan terdesak untuk dapatkan bantuan, dapatkan pinjaman, mereka pergi kepada high interest loans, right? And these are the kinds of along and all that, dan sebagainya. So nombor 3, regulatory support, right? Kita perlu memudahkan proses-proses bagi SME untuk memulakan perniagaan. Cut the birokrasi, right? Birokrasi semua kita tolak ke tepi. Contohnya, streamlining proses untuk permits, licenses, approval processes, right? So kalau kita lihat peniaga-peniaga yang ada sekarang ni, yang berniaga di TikTok misalnya, right? Dia ada affiliate
ramai
partners.
Tu.
Memang ramai.
Usahawan muda sebenarnya.
Usahawan muda, ya, betul. Lepas SPM dia rasa macam dia nak dapatkan secondary income kan. So untuk dia register ke TikTok senang saja, right? 1 2 3 4, right? Lepas tu terus boleh berniaga. Dia tak perlu macam-macam proses, right? So from a regulatory aspect, I think we also need to keep up with the trend jugalah in this particular case.
Okey, contohnya kalau kita ada lebih kurang data sekitar 1.3 1.5 juta PMKS. Contohlah kalau kita bagi dalam 10 juta ringgit dalam tempoh 10 tahun, adakah antara 3 aspek yang baru dikongsikan, education, pendigitalan ini dan perkara lain, kita boleh cakap mampu capai dalam masa 10 tahun ataupun perlu lagi tempoh siri masa yang lagi panjang sebenarnya?
So kita dapat lihat dengan bajet yang kerajaan bagi pada tahun kemarin, right? 2023. Ada komponen dibagi in terms of digitalization matching grant, right? Yang berjumlah RM5,000, right? So kita dapat lihat daripada sumber kewangan itu mereka sudah mula berhijrah kepada enabling dia punya point of sale system, right? To get them on board to the digitalization. So untuk tahun ini, insyaAllah, bajet 2024 akan datang. It will be good, katakan kalau government boleh meneruskan tax incentives bagi SMEs yang mana yang dah invested dalam digital innovation dan juga teknologi, right? So by extending this, kita harap semakin banyak SMEs dapat ambil this particular initiative dan modernizekan dia punya business. Itu satu. With regards to funding, allocation daripada grants and low interest loan kepada SME, bajet 2023 juga dah allocatekan sebanyak RM1 bilion dikhususkan kepada peniaga SME dan juga peniaga bahasa malam melalui BSN dan juga Bank Negara Malaysia. Tetapi daripada jumlah allocation ini, kita kena pastikan juga berapa sebenarnya yang telah didisbursekan kepada SMEs, right? Berapa NPL rate, adakah berjaya ataupun tidak? Apa lesson learn yang kita dapat daripada previous program, right? So bila kita assume, contohnya for example, bila fund tu pergi kepada banks, BSN, BNM and all that, right? Sekiranya proses untuk dapatkan pinjaman daripada bank tadi susah, right? Macam mana pula mereka mau akses kepada fund yang yang sama juga yang telah diberi kepada bank. Right? So mungkin kerajaan dapat consider matching fund program kepada non-bank players, contohnya macam e-wallet players. Kebanyakannya semua dah biasa dengan e-wallet kan, supaya mereka juga dapat menjadi disbursement channel secara terus kepada SMEs. Right? And last but not least, policy reforms, right? Pengubahsuaian business registration processes, reducing red tapes, updating regulation to be more SME friendly. Ini ini memang penting. Tak kira berapa banyak bajet yang kita allocate kepada SME, sekiranya proses untuk mendapatkan adalah rumit, the objective will never be able to achieve. Right? So saya percaya, katakan kalau kita dapat selesaikan 1, 2, 3 ni, saya yakin contribution SMEs kepada GDP tak mustahil boleh hit above 50%, right? Daripada jumlah SME businesses yang memang sekarang ni dah ada dekat 97%. Right? So memang logik prosesnya arah ke arah situ.
Oh, kalau 50% banyak tu, boleh angkat lagi hasil negara. Tetapi kalau kita nak lihat, PMKS ni datang daripada pelbagai sektor dan mempunyai pelbagai dasar dan polisi, dan dasar dan polisi itu akan mengikut keperluan setiap sektor ini. Tapi seperti yang saya ceritakan tadi, bahawa kita perlukan pengubahsuai dasar dan polisi ini. Jadi untuk kita beri tumpuan kepada dasar dan polisi ini, mungkin kita boleh cakap apa antara insentif ataupun sokongan ataupun polisi yang boleh diberi tumpuan dalam belanjawan 2024 dalam memastikan sasaran ini dapat dicapai, memandangkan sebelum belanjawan sebelum ni adalah beri tumpuan kepada bottom ke up. Kebanyakan pemain industri cakap ini adalah antara pertama kali diberi tumpuan daripada bottom ke up. Adakah dalam belanjawan 2024 perlu diberi tumpuan arus yang sama, bottom ke up, dan apa lagi yang perlu kita lakukan untuk capai target ni?
Saya rasa sama ada dia top to bottom, bottom to up, itu bukan satu isu yang besar. Yang isu yang paling utama sekarang ni adalah the execution component of it. Right? So katakan kita dah ada kita punya rencana-rencana yang mana kita sediakan, tetapi untuk SME mendapatkan, dia memerlukan 1, 2, 3 processes yang memang rumit. Contohnya, biasanya kita dapat lihat sekarang ini, peniaga-peniaga burger, for example, kan, the burger boys, right? Dia nak minta pinjaman daripada bank, susah nak dapat, right? Sebab dia punya rekod tak simpan, right? So it requires the fundamental changes, right? Daripada making sure that dia ada access kepada teknologi, the basic point of sale system, access kepada virtual payment, acceptance of payments, right? So daripada situ tu, rekod secara semula jadi akan terjaga dalam sistem yang mana diadakan. So sekiranya mereka mahu memohon pinjaman ataupun dana daripada sumber-sumber lain, rekod itu semua sudah dipersiapkan. Right? So I think sama ada top to bottom, bottom to up, doesn't matter, but it's just that the process of getting it, making sure that they're ready with all the components, the physical support and regulatory support, advisory support as well, boleh menggalakkan diorang, memudahkan diorang untuk mendapatkan apa yang diperlukan.
Diorang kalau kita nak pergi ke pasaran global, diorang kenalah ready daripada peringkat tempatan, betul?
The basic business management, accounting, cash flow, P&L, asset liability, right? So those are the things yang kena pick up, nak tak nak pun kena pick up juga. Okay,
mungkin nak tambah sikit, making sure our PMKS local getting ready, and kita nak pastikan juga dasar dan polisi kita fleksibel agar kita tak boleh create dasar dan polisi tetap, sebab mengikut keadaan ekonomi akan berubah-ubah. Apa je yang kita tak belajar waktu pandemik COVID-19 tu. Tetapi kalau kita nak cakap seperti yang Hudaifah ada kongsikan tadi yang menarik, nak pastikan bagaimanakah keberkesanan dia. Adakah kita perlu terapkan pemantauan penilaian berkala ke, ataupun siapa pihak berkepentingan yang perlu terlibat dalam perkara-perkara ini?
Betul. So I think dari segi data collection tu memang sangat penting. Right? So kalau kita tengok kebanyakan kerajaan-kerajaan, even kerajaan negeri sekalipun, agensi kerajaan, yang mana telah meluluskan grant, right, kepada peniaga kecil, kepada usahawan, right. So selepas grant tu telah disampaikan, macam mana proses untuk dia memastikan yang hasil tu dapat dicapai seperti apa yang telah dijanjikan, right. So dari segi data tu setakat ni memang masih belum diberi. Kalau ada pun memang it will be an ad hoc basis, right. So coming back to the same thing as well, sekiranya penggunaan platform sebagai point of sale system, for example, right, POS ataupun data capture and all that, right, it becomes part of the routine reporting ataupun direct reporting kepada agensi yang memberi grant. Daripada situ kita boleh pastikan sama ada hasil grant kita bagi itu berapa manfaat yang kita dapat, apa impact dia kat situ, right. So they come back to the same basic element, right. to make sure that kita punya SME equipped dengan kita punya digitalization adoption, yang tu boleh dikatakan sebagai benda fundamental ataupun pokok lah, right, ke arah membangunkan mereka lagi bagus pada masa depan.
Okey, satu je soalan seperti tajuk utama kita, sudahkah PKS Malaysia bersedia masuk pasaran global sebenarnya? Rating ke 1 hingga 10, ya atau tidak, bagaimana?
Bagi saya, tu soalan susah sikit tu. So bagi saya, mungkin dalam 1 sampai 10 mungkin saya akan ambil dalam 4.5 ke 5.
Boleh. Anything can change, the number can change.
Anything can change, right? So that's why kita tak boleh tengok daripada satu sudut, right? Memang semua SME memang nak berkembang kepada pasaran global. Tetapi adakah mereka ready untuk ke arah situ? Dari segi readiness tu, apakah elemen-elemen yang telah disediakan? Adakah mereka bersungguh untuk participate, right? So sekiranya katakan ada business advisory yang dikhususkan, yang diberikan oleh kerajaan and all that, they participate, they run through the program, macam mana cohort punya program, right? Then insyaAllah you should be able to get there.
Betul. If you are determined to learn, no one can stop you. Tapi if you're not willing to learn, no one can help you.
Betul.
I like that. Okey, saya nak ucapkan terima kasih kepada Hudhaifah Ahmad, merupakan pengarah eksekutif Maakasa Digital Service, dan banyak perkongsian menarik ini akan kami rangkumkan dalam Astro.com dan semua platform digital Astro AWANI. Selepas ini bersama rakan tugas Ibrahim Sani untuk membawakan perkembangan seterusnya. Kami akan beristirahat seketika, kembali selepas ini.
Maybe you can share a little bit with us what you have observed through your work about the current state of energy access.
I think it's an important issue that we need to address, because without it, rural communities continue being marginalized, the gap will widen.
Do you see this as reasons for more rising polarization in Malaysia?
You can see that it's really a highly polarized society, because everybody is trying to spin an ethnic, religious angle to every major incident you can think of.
Assalamualaikum, Inspektor. Ingat misi kita. Lepas tahu macam mana sih? Keluar masuk siap-siap. Bukannya start mati peluru kat sana.
Tapi tak semua arahan tu betul, Tuan.
Tahu, Dok, dia akan bunuh Hanim, tahu, Dok. Kali ni tak ada agak-agak dah.
Polis Ibo 3. Sewa dan stream on demand atau sila ke saluran 480.
Federal agents!
We're going to investigate and find the truth.
Level 3 domestic terrorist warning.
Call base security.
Tibanya musim terakhir.
NCIS, it's over. Drop it. Drop the gun.
This guy wants to kill a lot more people.
Now he has the tools to do it.
A genetic weapon. Got to get someone on the inside. Parsons has enough explosives to take down an entire city block.
NCIS Los Angeles, musim terakhir setiap Selasa di AXN.
Thanks for joining us. My name is Ibrahim Sani. We're talking about the evolution of electric vehicles in Malaysia, the rise of the industry within this country, and of course within our region, and of course what it means to folks like you and me in terms of the EV evolution that is arriving in Malaysia dead on. Joining me in the studio is Datuk Dennis Chua, the president of the EV Association of Malaysia. Dennis, thank you very much for taking the time to speak with us. I want to understand a little bit better in terms of the role of the association of the EV Association of Malaysia, and how does this differ from all the other associations in the country?
Thank you for inviting me. Electric Vehicle Association, I'm currently the president. So far, before it established in year 2017, I have been involved into the association of different countries, especially the ASEAN region. We share a lot on policy of like how you're able to bring in the vehicle and how you engage with the governments to be able to provide incentive and a good policy to grow the electric vehicle, especially the four-wheelers. And of course, me, myself, I founded my own company, manufacture electric two-wheelers, the company Aclimo. It's very, very early in 2012, we already obtained JPJ approval. So you can actually drive the bike on the road and you can register with road tax, with license. So during that time already involved in electric vehicle, that's why I take the role of of engaging with the ASEAN countries to share our knowledge and bring in or share the policy among others countries.
There are some chicken and egg argument when it comes to EV arguments here. I want to explore one by one. Over the weekend, I had a lot of, Twitter battles with some of my followers. When it comes to mobility in Malaysia, some detractors are saying that EV doesn't necessarily address two issues, which is energy consumption at manufacturing and at charging. Number two is, of course, when you move people using public transport, either bus or trains or any other public transport, mass public transport, you're going to be able to reduce not just consumption of carbon, you're going to be able to actually make things faster in terms of mobility. How do you address these whole two notions of energy creation at the coal plants, for manufacturing and for charging, and mobility using public transport against the rise of EV right now? Where do you think, how do you think we should approach this topic?
First, for me, why the association are very much engaging with the industry, especially the manufacturers. We need more manufacturers to come on board to be able to design from the chassis, from the electronics, the batteries, the motor, and also the body. Just by comparison, combustion and electric, these have reduced a lot. For electric, to manufacture a vehicle, you can even reduce 75% of parts to use to build the vehicle. And on top of that, the maintenance is very, very low. You don't have to maintain the engine. Every time when
there's no engine. Yeah.
There's no engine, right? So every time your combustion vehicle, when you send for service, it's all about the engine. So today, electric vehicle, the engine already been taken out. You only use the motor and the battery. So what are things to maintain? You actually reduce a lot of maintenance. So this is one thing that we are very sure that in terms of electric vehicle, we're actually reducing components to build the vehicle. When it comes to the energy, we believe, we always say that when you put in 1 liter of petrol to turn into the energy to drive the vehicle, you only get about 25 to 30% of energy. The rest of it is a wastage, it's the emissions. So, but when you come to electric, you put in 1 kilowatt, you're actually getting about 90% of generation of power to drive the vehicle. So, what does that mean? Meaning that even though your power plant, electricity is actually generated from coal, you are still very, very efficient because the energy that you put into the battery, you can able to drive almost 90% of the power to drive the motor to move the vehicle. So this is the industry that we believe that we should be able to keep bringing more players to the countries.
Yeah. And what about the second half of my question, which is on mobility? It's better to think about investing in public transportation and making it more efficient in terms of trying to bring people about, as opposed to supporting the EV industry.
When you talk about public transport, electric vehicle suits well. Why? Because when you have a long range, if you're using a very long mileage per day, you actually see a lot of savings. Meaning that if you only drive, let's say 30 or 60 kilometers a day, probably you don't see savings using electric vehicle. But if you have a 200, 300 or 400 kilometers, that's where you see a lot of savings by using electric vehicle, especially for electric bus, commercial vehicle, bus. We should focus more to convert into electric because it saves a lot. And in terms of just two-wheelers, if you ride electric just for 100 kilometers, you're actually saving 7 kilo of CO2.
Yeah, the idea here is to reduce reduction on personal cars, either EV or ICE. The idea here is to get people about more efficiently, and if it means investing more in public transport, shouldn't that be the way?
Yes, of course. We actually encourage public transport to use electric, especially on the bus. Of course, when you look into the bus are actually taking passenger. You also need aircons, battery to power the aircons. So when you come to bus, utilizing the batteries for driving, for the motor, and also using it for the aircon, probably you'll see that the saving is not much. But when you come to the whole total bus converting from the engine to electric, it simplify a lot on your maintenance.
What are the bus manufacturers on EV? Are they a lot?
So far, because of the entry to manufacture a bus, the entry is high because of the battery. Probably will cost you 300,000 ringgit. Right now, you only see that mostly are manufactured in China. You do have European company and do manufacture bus, but widely is produced and manufactured by a Chinese company from China, where they distribute worldwide.
Why isn't there an economies of scale when it comes to producing EV buses, the way we see, say, Tesla, for instance? Billions of dollars into R&D, billions of dollars into sales and marketing, and the adoption is quite high. In fact, the fastest model selling vehicle in 2022, pardon me, is Model Y. So you can see the aggressiveness of Tesla in trying to get one model out to become the best-selling model car, either EV or ICE, on the planet. Why is there no, I guess, company in terms of getting buses on the road?
You see today, if you look at the bus industry, or only government are investing on bus, and you are actually, if you purchase electric bus and combustion bus, the initial cost is high. Most likely you're going to be double. So there's only today government are investing on bus, because operating a bus and also collecting, there's very hard to get profits of running a bus.
So you see the chicken and egg argument here, right? Okay, so you as the president of EV Association of Malaysia, you want everybody to own an EV. That's fine. I want an EV too. But I'm not the government, you are not the government, but the government is asking, how do we reduce carbon emission if it means more MRT, LRT, rail or buses? Shouldn't that be the way? But right now, for Malaysia at least, or ASEAN countries, it's not easy trying to move people when, say, for instance, Bangkok has 10 million people, Jakarta has 20 million people. You know, talking about a lot of people here. And not many of them can own an EV, you know. So how can we try to solve mobility as the topic of the day? Not so much EV. How do we solve mobility if it's going to be expensive for governments to buy EV buses? You know, I mean, you're right. I'm not going to dispute that. It's going to cost double, if not more. And you're going to see just more carbon-emitting buses on the road.
Well, this is a fact that you are depending on government to purchase the bus. But if you look at for Philippines, even Philippines, they have a local manufacturers. The local governments are actually purchasing a smaller bus, and their policy is have to be electric. So when their policy is have to be electric in Philippines, they call it like e-trikes, they call it e-jeepney. They don't start with like a 7-meter or 12-meter bus. They actually started from a smaller.
So the
smaller
jeepneys
vehicle.
are going to be EV now.
Yes,
or has been.
They already have it. They already been 10 years at running e-jeepneys or e-trikes. And where does this come from? Because of the policy, they already have easily 15 to 20 manufacturers of the e-jeepneys or the e-trikes. And this is driven by the government policy, where it must be electric these mobilities for passenger.
So speaking about policy, right? What are the policies that you think Malaysian government is lacking right now when it comes to adopting cleaner energy, not just EV?
For instance, currently, I would say that within these 2 years, our governments have put in a lot of efforts. For the past, I don't see much, but right now we see a lot of efforts have been putting into driving up the electric vehicle. First thing, the policy, excise duty exemption. Because there's not much of local manufacturers, you have importations of material which is exempted from importation duties. And if the vehicles are ready, you also get exemptions of duty, meaning that manufacturers or the vehicle do not need to pay duties until this 2025. And this is one. Second is manufacturers, parts. our governments are looking into giving, I would say that when inviting companies to do joint venture or to do R&D locally, we can able to produce affordable parts. We can produce parts here. We have a lot of manufacturers here. The manufacturers are not gearing up. It's also chicken and egg because there is no volume here. So, but there is a market for electric vehicle. We can able to do more than that. We have a lot of manufacturing here. We have electronics manufacturers. We have electronics. We have mechanical. We have chassis. We can able to build a vehicle. It's just that today the market is growing, but not growing fast enough for the companies to enter into this industry because they haven't seen that whether they invest into this business, whether there is a profitability at the end of first year, second year, or third year.
A special task force will be set up next month to review and strengthen the country's laws concerning investment and business.
The Cabinet has approved a proposal to redevelop KL Central to cater to increasing number of commuters.
Prime Minister Datuk Sri Ibrahim has agreed to expand affordable housing that will soon be gazetted.
Malaysians in the Indian northern state of Haryana are reminded to stay vigilant and comply with orders by local authorities.
Berita hebat untuk semua pelanggan Astro. Kini anda boleh stream Cowbox daripada Muslim Pro selama 2 bulan secara percuma dengan Astro Box Baharu. Selami dunia hiburan Muslim, pelbagai program menawan yang meraihkan budaya Muslim seluruh dunia. Jangan lepaskan peluang untuk stream pelbagai siri menarik.
Jilbab terbaru itu panggilan jiwanya.
Oh, it was so good. Akses percuma Cowbox daripada Muslim Pro selama 2 bulan. Eksklusif daripada kami.
You're in this space, you know these manufacturers, the car manufacturers, I mean. Are they looking forward to try to enter the market and try to build an EV car of Malaysia? In fact, wasn't that the idea, the third national car?
Definitely, I would say that every car manufacturers have planned to go EV. Why? Because the demand is there. You can see the demand is there.
Yeah.
Whether they want to start right now is still a question mark, because whether their volume is enough for them to start now. Of course, one of the very sensitive issues here is why the demand is not increasing that much, because our petrol is subsidized. So just look at neighboring country. Their EV adoption is very, very high. Every month you see that the people buying vehicles is increasing.
People buying EVs is increasing.
People buying EV is increasing. Why? Because the petrol is high.
So, Malaysian government, this is not the first time you're mentioning this, but the phrasing that I like, some of my guests use, is that Malaysia as a government is subsidizing carbon. And this is oxymoronic because at the same time, Malaysian government is also promoting EV. We saw the Prime Minister taking a phone call with Tesla. We're seeing some of the manufacturers like Mercedes, BMW, Volvo aggressively trying to push forward their EV vehicles, their full EV, not their hybrids. So how do you think we're going to resolve this conundrum where Malaysia is subsidizing carbon, but at the same time want EV? Something has to give, right?
That's true. Of course, for people, definitely petrol is cheap enough that they still require the petrol for their own use, right? So in order to increase the EV, most likely that like today, you actually start from the T20. From a higher range vehicle, the higher range pricing vehicle, people are already converting it If you look at 5 years ago and today, our vehicle have reached almost like maybe 5,000 units. So within these 2 years, actually, we have increased a lot. I can see that more and more people are converting. Why? Also not because of companies are required to comply to ESG. Not because of just because of ESG, a clean environment. They are converting because they supplying to overseas. Their customers are required the companies to have ESG compliance. So these are the I would say that these are the compliance that would drive EV.
Another chicken and egg argument is, of course, the infrastructure, setting charging standards, for instance, manufacturing batteries, developing charging systems across major metropolitan areas, having good EV charging mechanism intrastate along the highways. Tesla has made some announcements. We've heard local governments making other announcements. Where do you see this adoption coming in terms of building this infrastructure? Must the infrastructure come first, then the EVs?
Today we are very much putting up efforts to build the infrastructure. First thing also I need to address this, that there is a plan, government plan, that by 2025 we want to achieve 10,000 EV charging stations. Until today, we are still importing the charging equipments. There is no local manufacturers. There are companies talk about it, and I also hope that there will be a local manufacturers for the EV charging stations. And our aim is to be able to achieve by 2025 10,000 charging stations. So when this grow, when you ask people, do you consider to change to EV? The first coming out from their comment is there is lack of charging stations.
Yeah.
Right. So and the moment that there is a charging station, like currently, if you look at the charging station, the utilization is lesser than expected.
Yeah.
So they need more EV vehicle. They are coming to Malaysia to be able to have people to purchase the vehicle. Then the utilization will be higher. But definitely today, the direction is to build charging station to achieve 10,000 charging stations by 2025.
You're right. Charging stations are always empty. I can't imagine, except for the Astro campus at least. But yeah, do you think that these kind of conversations have to end in terms of which one comes first, the infra or the car, or the kind of conversation of, oh, let's have buses and rail instead of EVs? Where do you see this conversation is going to lead? Because, like I said, it's getting tiring for me to clarify the views of the EV industry to folks out there, especially on my Twitter followers right now. When it seems like I don't know why they are against the EV growth. I don't think they are supporters of the ICE industry. Do you think that comprehension of the market is actually quite critical right now?
Today, when I talk to people who own EV and people interested to own EV, when those that already own EV, they are actually charging at home. And right now, EV can carry you from 400 to 500 kilometers per charge. Those that already own EV, they just charge at home. They when they travel long distance, they only look out where to charge. So, on the other hand, before you purchase an EV, you will think that where can I charge it later on? Where can I find a charger? But the moment that when you own an EV, especially like me, I don't go public area to charge EV. So the understanding is when you own an EV, you don't really look for public chargers. So for instance, right now condominiums, house, it's so easy for you to install an EV charging. Even though it takes you 7 hours or even 8 hours to full charge your vehicle, but you don't wait until you go down to 10% or 20%. The moment that you think that, oh, it's already 50%, you just plug and leave it there, because you can actually charge it at night and you don't drive your vehicle for 5 to 6 hours, right?
Another area of exploration that I want to go through with you is on the national automotive policy. When it was announced in 2020, there was not much concessions made for the EV industry, and of course very recently, as late as April this year, the MITI Minister Tengku Datuk Sri Zafrul Aziz said that the government is looking at many of the developments of EV and try to see how they can perhaps introduce some form of concessions for EV. What would be some of the ideas that you think is going to be thought of when it comes to reviving, updating the national automotive policy?
I think this is the opportunity for local industry right now. You see, governments have allowed so-called CBU unit to be able to sell in Malaysia.
Yeah,
there are a few models that are already announced, right? So
like Model Y and all.
Model Y, they have other brands from China.
Yeah,
right?
The BYDs, the EX90, the EQS, you name it.
So you name it, there's
all
a
fancy
lot.
cars, all 200 minimum.
You also have lately BYD also announcing 99,000. Start from 99,000 to 120.
But I think they can't sell below 100,000, so it's like 105, something like that.
Right. So the policy is very, very friendly. Why I say that, they actually allowed CBU unit.
Yeah.
And there is no tax.
Yeah.
There's no excise duty. There's no importation duty.
Yeah.
So there must be a...
That was last week, actually, yeah.
Oh, yes. There must be a guideline. How many units later this company have to locally assemble it or locally manufacture it?
Right now, there's no guideline?
There's a guideline to all the manufacturers that they allow you to sell CBU in a country. There must be a commitment when you're going to locally assemble it, and how many % of local content must be there.
Yeah, and then the companies are going to say, of course I'm going to comply, and then when the time comes, they don't comply.
Of course, this is the work of the ministry to actually negotiate with the companies.
Yeah.
I'm sure companies, when the sales are good, the cars are here, they also need to support the buyers, and in order for them to be able to stay, local manufacturers, if they can provide a better price, why not? Right? And you have a local companies that are willing to support the materials, I'm sure they're going to look at it. So it all depends on, not because of you need to comply with the policy, you have to buy a higher price. We local can be very, very competitive in parts. We can support, I mean, our industry, it started from there. We have a lot of semiconductor here. We have 20, 30 years of manufacturing that are export orientated. So we have the industry that are able to compete globally. So if this is the opportunity here that there are more and more cars are coming into the country, there are more opportunity for us to look into manufacturing of the parts for supporting the electric vehicle, and also supporting the vehicle, and also when there are more cars, we need people to be able to service the car. What about the training of our people to be able to handle the electric vehicle maintenance, the service? Even though maintenance is low, but you still need people to be able to manage the maintenance and service the vehicle.
The corporate thinker Peter Drucker did say that the automotive industry is the industry of industries. Do you feel that is still relevant when it comes to the EV industry?
Automotive been around for so long.
Yeah.
And
130 years actually, yeah.
And you talk about a combustion vehicle, it's not easy for a newcomer to enter into a combustions. But for electric, it's different, totally different. It doesn't need to come from a combustion automotive manufacturing.
In fact, Portals 5 Forces have argued that it's actually quite easy to enter this particular sector.
Correct. So right now, we have the opportunity to compete globally. We have all the so-called expertise. Right now, electric vehicle, you're talking about battery, powertrain, and the body.
That's it.
That's it. So why we don't have companies that come on board?
Why indeed? Yeah. Do you think tax incentives are going to be important in this sense?
Yes, for a start, I would say that for a start, for instance, that
AC Ventures in Jakarta is pumping in hundreds of millions of dollars in the EV industry. It's a venture capital fund. We're going to see a lot more of that coming in, where new money is going to pump in.
There's a lot of money into automotive, especially electric vehicle.
Yeah.
If you look at 10 years back, even the Americans, the US, the Europeans, they are providing subsidies.
Yeah.
Even the Chinese are providing subsidies. It can up to 50% of the vehicle.
Yeah.
But the industry grow when the industry have matured. The subsidies have reduced, but the vehicle is still increasing.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So the opportunity.
The subsidies are not there permanently.
Correct. Yes. So the industry is growing, and we have Malaysia, even though it's small, we have easily 500 to 600,000 units a year of new purchases. We have easily 10 million of vehicles, not only 4 wheels, we have 30 million 2 wheels. That's the opportunity.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Dennis, for coming over. That was Datuk Dennis Chua, the president of the EV Association of Malaysia. If you want to learn more, just head off to their website. You can also find these kind of resources at astroawani.com. My name is Ibrahim Sani. Catch you in the next one.